Welcome to the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. I'm dedicated to helping you take control of your life. Together, we'll explore practical tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories to help you overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Making small changes is possible and can lead to big results. Are you ready? Let's go do this. Dr. Amando, welcome. I am so excited that you are here. So when Austin connected us and then we started emailing back and forth, and even prior to that, when I heard your story, I went, oh my gosh, everything about what you have walked through resonates with me, where you are today, what brought about all those changes. I am just extremely excited to walk into that as we get into the weeds of our podcast. Are you ready?
Yes, game on.
Let's go do this.
It.
Oh, so I always let my guests introduce themselves and feel free to pick up the story where you'd like, and then we will bounce and go from there.
Sounds good. All right. I always like to start by introducing myself by getting the listeners engaged by thinking about themselves first. So, thinking about how many times today have you already thought about money or a lack of money? If you think about when you woke up this morning, did you think about, is there enough? What's going to happen in my business? What's going to happen in my life? Or thinking about fear and inadequacy, things like that. I really love to work with people on inner power. So it's them reframing their mindset, their energy, and their habits to get outer world results of success. So how many times today, if you had a recording device in your brain, did you already think about failing, struggling, if you're going to make it, if you're enough? It's wild how many times per day we think about failure and fear, and we just put ourselves into this state of struggle. And so everything I do in the world is to help people with that, because I really know what it's like to struggle and then succeed. And, I think of success as being able to feel like you have a magic wand to wake up in the morning and create your life however you choose. And that's an incredible feeling, because for me, my entrepreneurial journey started when I was on the floor crying. I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair, and my next relationship wasn't working. So my boyfriend had moved all of his stuff out of this basement in this house that we had rented together. I'm on the basement floor crying, and I had spent the day looking in Craigslist for places to live, and I couldn't afford anything for me and my 3 kids. I was already on food stamps, already working, as an instructor, taking graduate classes, and had an extra job and taking out full student loans, like doing everything I could to get ahead. And yet I kept getting stuck, and relationships were a really big issue for me. I really did not know how to navigate them well. And so I'm laying on the floor and I'm thinking, who can I get to help me? And there's no one, there's no one to help me. And I'm scared and I'm crying. And I remember I had this moment where I sat up and I thought, okay, I'm scanning everything that's happened in my life. And in every single scenario, I'm the one at the center. I'm the one who's creating this. And that was such a liberating moment, because I realized, well, I'm going to have to change. It was scary because I realized no one's there to help me, and it's no one else's fault for where I am. I can't keep blaming other people and thinking that it's going to get better. Instead, I've got to do something different. And so I made this declaration to myself. And at the time, I wouldn't have called it a declaration. It just, I said to myself in my mind, I was like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to have better relationships and make more money, because I was really tired of being poor and feeling stuck in relationships. And so it led me to listening to podcasts, because I was already really busy. And so I could listen on the go. So I double sped, podcasts, and I would listen while I was washing my dishes and taking my kids to school and walking between classes. And I really started to change my mindset. And I realized that all of these podcasts were done by coach type people. So I started really digging into the world of coaching. And at the same time that this was happening, in the department where I was, we had this national news fallout where professors were leaving the department and people were stressed. And I was like, I don't think I want to be a professor anymore. And I had been on track for this for a long time. So I decided that I was going to take the leap once I got my degree and become an entrepreneur and a coach instead, because I really loved teaching. And so I took the leap. And in that first year, I went from food stamps to 6 figures. And it's been such a fun ride, scary sometimes too, of course. And it's been like, just bliss to get to a place where I get to do what I enjoy and make money doing it.
Wow, I would say dramatic.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
go from to go from food stamps to 6 figures in a year, so that's 365 days. That's a fast track. That is totally dramatic. I have, like, a million questions, but the first one is which I love your story because it's one of, you know what, you just took control and even though the fear was there, you decided I'm going to go through with this anyway and I'm going to make it no matter what. At that time in your life, what are 2 or 3 characteristics you would say that described you from that moment you were on the floor and then you realized, "Wait a minute, I've got to keep going at this." What drove you?
Pain. It was pain and choice, right? It's a
Yeah.
mix of being at the bottom and not having much farther to go down. Here I am looking for houses and I really was like, am I going to be homeless? Like, what am I going to do? I was really scared. So fear
Mhm.
was huge. And then I made a decision and I was committed to it. And I really it was
What was the
such
decision? What was the decision
it
that you
was that
made?
decision of I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stop being poor and have better relationships. It was like so clear in my mind. It was like, oh, if it's me, I can change. And I realized it was me because I had looked at all of those parts of my life and gone, I'm the center common denominator of all of these scenes in my life. And so I was like,
Mhm,
well, okay, if it's me, then I can start to change. And so
mhm.
it was a really critical moment to decide to change. And that's really what it takes. You just need to decide I'm done with what's going on. I'm ready to change. And then what will happen when you make that declaration is that events and people will come into your life to support your decision. That's how the law of attraction works.
Okay, yeah, talk about that, the law of attraction for those who
Yeah.
are listening and aren't quite sure what that is, because you hear that thrown around and you're really not sure, like, is it opposites attracting or is it same things attracting or is it what you're saying is being attracting to you? Unpack that.
Yeah, so it's definitely not opposites attract. It's such an interesting thing that we believe that because it's absolutely wrong. So, actually, the law of attraction really just has to do with energy matching. So, whatever you are feeling and thinking is what you're going to attract your way. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's conscious and unconscious thoughts and feelings. So, most people will think, well, if I asked a million people in a room, I said, who here wants to be financially free and have an awesome life? 100% of people would raise their hand. But then if I said, who here has an awesome life and is financially free, very few people raise their hand. What's the gap? It's their thoughts, their beliefs, and their feelings. And so you could be silent and just be thinking negative thoughts and feeling bad. And that's what you attract into your reality in a material
Mm.
form to show you what you're thinking and feeling. On the opposite end, you could be feeling high vibe joy, happiness, thinking of all the possibilities, and that's what you attract your way. And so, it's interesting because sometimes people will go like, I don't believe in the law of attraction. And it doesn't matter if you believe in it, you still live by it. So you might as well test it out and play with it and see what you can create and manifest and accomplish, right? Manifestation just means you're accomplishing your goals. And I always like to ask people, would you choose to be a deliberate creator and attract consciously and choose what's coming into your life? Or would you rather be thrown around by all the outer world things, thinking that you have no control, but realistically you do? And so, when you think of law of attraction, the easiest way to know if you're going to attract things that are awesome into your life is how you're feeling. You're going to continue to attract stress if you feel stressed every day. You're going to continue to attract fear if you feel fear every day. You're going to continue to attract prosperity if you feel abundant and high vibe every day.
I'm thinking about people out there that wander around going, "Well, my life sucks,"
Yeah.
and just say it's because so and so did this or because so and so did that, or it's something outside of themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that, wait a minute, it's internal and you can change the trajectory of your life by thinking and manifesting and actually visualizing what it is that you want. I mean, I spent my entire life, most of my life like that. I always
Yeah.
had things happen
Me
to
too.
me. I didn't
Yeah.
realize they happened for me. And I wandered through life going, wow, this is all there is to life. This is
Hmm.
all that, like, why can't I have what somebody else has? And it was kind of like an, oh, woe is me perspective on life. I started talking to different people. I started listening to a podcast and reading the books and finally taking ownership
Mhm.
of my life and
Yeah.
deciding that this change is not going to happen from somebody else. Change has got to come from inside of me and empower me. So, talk a little bit about what you do and how you birthed and developed the program that you use that is your Inner Power Daily.
Yeah. This is an awesome conversation. I think you bring up something that's really important that most people do exactly what you're talking about. They think, "Oh, it's COVID's fault that I feel this way. It's my parents' fault. It's the way I was raised. It's my background. It could be trauma that I experienced." Like, I mean, on and on and on. And we want to blame our past and things that we've experienced for why we are where we are today. Now, let's actually know for a minute. You can't change the past. It's impossible. If you
Right.
can, come talk to me because, hey, we need to collaborate and we can make billions of dollars. You can't change the past, right? And stop trying to change the past. It's
And how
more of,
many of us live there?
yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but how many of us live in the past and
yeah,
we ruminate and we regret and we live there? And talk into as well, like what you would tell somebody who just sits there in the past and just can't move beyond it.
yeah. Yeah, first it's really interesting. I don't tend to attract people who are stuck in the past anymore because I'm not,
Right.
and your outer world's a
Right.
reflection of your inner world. And so I attract people who are ready to change and are ready to up level. And so, for people listening, if you're in a situation where you continuously attract victim-minded people who are complaining a lot, look within. So the main framework of my company, I tell people, is your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If you don't like what's going on the outside, change what's within. So that's what Inner Power Daily is all about. Inner power, right? Your inner power is what creates your outer world reality. So if you start changing your victim mindedness, you will see your outer world change where you start to attract people who aren't complaining. I used to think of it as being a crap magnet, and you attract I didn't ask you, is it okay to swear? I don't swear that
Oh,
much,
yeah,
but
yeah, you're
okay.
good. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
So when you're a crap magnet, you attract a shitstorm your way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it just keeps coming. And what happens is, okay, one bad thing happens. Now you complain to someone. Now you attract a complainer who wants to hear complaints. They complain back to you. Then you attract more bad stuff to keep complaining about. And it's a downward spiral trajectory that makes you feel horrible. And then you wonder, why is my life so bad? And so the stopping point is you recognizing, I don't like the experience I'm having anymore. I don't enjoy this. I'm ready to change. So that's where you get to recognize and you go, I'm ready for something different. Now you reframe in a new direction by doing different things, thinking different things, reprogramming your mindset, and then you repeat to reprogram. So that's my 3-step inner power formula. This is my formula I came up with that, just like you asked, like, what did I do to change and what do I help people do to change? It's just 3
Mhm.
simple steps. And I know that people sometimes are like, seriously, Dr. Amanda, that sounds crazy easy. The thing is, it's not easy. And the reason why it's not easy is because we are so programmed and habituated to all of our old ways of thinking and being. We are animals and we live by the pleasure pain principle. So we are always seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And
Mhm.
it's painful and scary to decide to change because it's much more comfortable to stay in your comfort zone of all the things you've been doing your whole life. Even if they're not getting you where you want to go, it's still a little bit scary to do something new. And so you've got to choose and decide, hey, I want a different reality. And then take little strategic small steps daily to reprogram yourself in a new direction. That's why my program is called Inner Power Daily, because you're reprogramming yourself on a consistent basis. And you're just taking little small wins every day to up level your vibrational frequency and get different outerward results. And then, just like you said, going from food stamps to 6 figures in a year, that's 365 days of change. I just did incremental daily change and it led to a
Mhm.
huge result over the course of a year.
Yeah, small steps, big wins.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So your 3 steps are recognize, reframe, and repeat.
To
So just
reprogram. Yep. Yep.
reprogram through repetition, reprogram through repetition. And how long does it take for somebody to go through this process where something starts to really stick?
Yep.
Because it's like, oh, I went to the gym for a week and I didn't lose any weight. That was 7 days. I
Yeah.
wanted to work instantly. Talk a little bit about forming those habits.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's interesting to think about how change happens over time, and yet it's more about frequency and desire. So here's an example. You could have a month, and one person could do one thing a day over the course of the month, and another person could do 25 things a day over the course of the month. Who do you think is going to change faster? The person who does it 25 times a day, right? So some of it is about frequency, and it's a combination of frequency and time, and having, I would say, having the right strategies to play with. Desire is really important too. It's really fun to think about, like, the mom who can lift the car off of the child, and that person would never believe that that's possible, but their desire is so strong they're able to do it because they have such a big why. Similar in terms of how fast you can change based on how powerful your why is, because we magnetically attract through our feelings. Our emotions are magnetic, and so the higher power you have to your emotions, the faster you're going to create change. So if you have a really here's another good example. You're going to a wedding and you want to lose 10 pounds before your wedding, you're very highly motivated, right? You have a big why. Alternatively, let's say you're, in 30 days, you're just wanting to lose 10 pounds, but you don't have a solid why, it's going to be harder to do. So you've got to really have that fire and a really clear why about change, and that will help you change faster.
Okay, so yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is that if somebody has that why and you couple that really strong why with real strong desire and then you increase your frequency, then
Yes.
change is going to happen a lot more faster than if you're just like, maybe I'll do this and I'll do it once a day. What's a story that you have of someone or yourself with a real dramatic change of somebody who actually put the pedal to the metal and experienced something that maybe was a little out of the ordinary?
I'd say people change so quickly when they realize that they're stuck, and then they take specific strategic steps. So it's like I'll
Mhm.
have people double their income in a week when they just realize why they're stuck.
Wow.
So they'll realize, oh, I have a belief system that's off based on doing a money story. I have my clients go through money stories and look at their money beliefs, and then they shift their belief system, and all of a sudden they're not afraid to sell anymore, or they're not afraid to promote themselves, or they up level their package price dramatically based on our conversation. So I've seen that happen. I had someone just come into my group coaching program, and in the first 2 weeks she made close the biggest deal she's ever closed in her business. And so things like that happen. People lose weight, people have better relationships, people feel more confident. And the reason for that is because I teach people universal laws. And it's like when I was a kid, I don't know if you felt like this too, but it was always like, you said this earlier, and it was what you were alluding to. It's like you felt like, what are the roles here? Like, am I just
Yeah.
a victim of everything that's going on around me, or am I being pushed around by everything around me? When I started to learn about the law of attraction and universal laws, I realized, oh, there are actually rules to the game of life, and you can learn them and win. And to me, that is the greatest liberation that anyone could experience. And so I love to work with people, because after they get to work with me, they're like, oh my God, I wish I would have learned this centuries ago. Centuries,
Oh, yeah.
no one loves
Yeah.
centuries, but decades ago, right? They're like, wow, if I
Yeah.
had just known this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, my life would be completely different. And I'm glad I know it now. And so, wherever you are on the journey, it's important to start questioning, what do the people do who are highly successful? Success leaves clues. And so I started paying a lot of attention to that. And I started looking at, okay, who's making money the way that I want to make money? And how can I hang out with them, learn from them, read their books, do the things that they're doing, and just follow those principles? So I always recommend that people find a coach or a mentor who they really resonate with, and then go like, hey, I want to learn with you. I want to work with you however I can. And if you do that, your desire is high. And when you take
Mhm.
action on that, your success is inevitable. It would be
Yeah.
impossible for you to not get good results.
Yeah, and then, just following up on what you're talking about, like, when that desire hits and you want to go find somebody that resonates with you, to find that mentor or find that coach, I've found, at least in my experience, when I wanted that, the teacher appeared. So, that statement that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appeared. Do you find that people often, even those in your coaching problem, that people often underestimate the power of what the mind can do to produce the results that they're looking for?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that we all I'll say this even more powerfully. People underestimate the power of their negative thinking, right? They don't realize they're creating outer world results that aren't what they want. And that's because of the power of their negative thinking. So we continuously struggle with imposter syndrome, negatively comparing ourselves to other people, perfectionism, fear that we're not enough, fear that we're going to succeed. I mean, on and on and on. And so people underestimate how that predominant feeling or thought creates stress in their system, and then that keeps recreating the same results over and over. And they don't understand why they're trapped in this vortex of, I'd kind of say hell. It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
it's a vortex of a downward spiral, and you feel stuck and you don't understand why it's happening. And so I think people really underestimate the power of their negative thoughts. And then when they start to learn strategies to pivot, they're surprised by how easy it actually can be.
I guess when you're in that awareness, it's like, what do they call that? It's your unconscious is now conscious to what's going on,
Yeah.
bringing that up to the forefront of your brain and realizing, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Maybe I can change this. And I don't know why, but to bring it now into the light really does help. Do you have people who just don't know where to start? So, how does
Yeah.
that help?
Yeah. So first, I got to say this quote because you're going to love it if you haven't heard it yet, which I think you have. What exactly what you're talking about. So my favorite quote, and when I ran into this, I was like, oh wow, and I learned everything since then to help people with exactly what you're talking about. So it's Carl Jung. He says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." It's exactly what you're talking about. And so most people don't recognize that only 5% of you is conscious. 95% of you is run by your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the storehouse of all your habits, and your habits are based on repetition, right? So repetitive thoughts, feelings, and emotions, beliefs that you're having over and over and over again, actions that you take over and over become habituated, and that's what creates your reality and just keeps recreating it. And so I created a daily program for entrepreneurs. It's called Morning Routine for Entrepreneurs, and they have daily lessons where I teach them strategy, inspiration, and then we do a daily journaling prompt, a short meditation, and an affirmation. And they get this every single day. It's meant to be done in 15 minutes because of that repetition piece. So the only two ways to reprogram your subconscious mind are through hypnosis or repetition. And so repetition is required for you to be able to change. So everything I do is about it's about habit and subconscious reprogramming. So I think of this as a law of attraction system, because once you program your subconscious mind for success, you automatically attract what you want your way. And so that's what's important to do. And it's got to be done on a daily basis. Hypnosis can happen when you're meditating. You can hire a hypnotherapist as well. Easier is to train yourself to really self coach, because it's possible for you to ask yourself questions to start to recognize. That's why journaling is important. And then you go, oh, okay, do I like what I'm noticing? If I don't, I reframe it, and then I repeat, 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 and I reprogram myself over time. So people in my daily group, it's the coolest thing. The first 2 weeks, it was within the first few weeks that this guy joined after I'd created the program, in the first month of it being created. And he had closed the most deals he had ever closed in his business, even though he had been in business for several years. And it was within the first 2 weeks. And it's just because he's starting to pick up on positivity, shift his vibrational frequency, focus on the direction he chooses to go instead of focusing on solving the problem of procrastinating. He started to reframe in a new direction and get different results. So it's a really cool program to help entrepreneurs succeed.
Okay, I love it. So, reprogramming the brain. So, like, can you repeat affirmantras? And I want you to define that. I know what an affirmantra is, but can you repeat those affirmantras while you're in that state of meditation? And do they imprint more deeply on the brain when you're doing that?
So it's interesting. There's different versions of meditation that you can do. I
Okay.
believe that all versions are awesome because you're consciously choosing to reprogram yourself when you do meditation. So meditation is a reframe tool, right? You're deciding, I'm going to reframe my energy right now by slowing down. If it's for 1 minute, 3 breaths, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 hours, you're reframing your energy. And so there are different ways to do it. Research is showing that if you really want to get into that subconscious reprogramming state, you've got to get into theta brainwaves, which is where you feel like you're almost, your body's asleep, but your mind's awake. And so you're really relaxed. And this is when you connect with collective consciousness. So ideas can pop into your mind from source or God, if whatever it is to you, right? It could be, I like to think of God as grand organized design. So it's like collective consciousness, grand organized design, universal intelligence, whatever it is to you. You open up to the possibility of connecting with that information in that state. And that's a hypnotic state. And so that's where you can reprogram your subconscious through meditation. Typically, when you're doing a shorter version, like let's say a 2-minute meditation, that's just more about being conscious in the moment, using mantras, doing some visualization, and you're much more active. So you're not going to go as much into that sleep state because you're using your mind to interact more actively. So there are different versions. I think all versions of meditation. I love meditation. Same with me. I completely transform my role through meditation. And I think it's a really powerful strategy. So mantras. So I came up with this term because of the power of repetition and also because I see people using affirmations incorrectly. So, what most people do with affirmations is that they repeat something that they are wanting to attract over and over and or even once and they just say it and immediately when they say it their subconscious mind goes you're full of crap. And they're not aware of this, but it's like an example could be, let's say you don't have a great relationship, but you want one. You go, I am great in relationship. I have an incredible marriage. And you don't have that, but you want to create it. What's happening as you say it, but you don't believe it's possible, or you don't have it, is you create resistance in your internal being. This causes conflict, and that resistance pushes away the thing that you're saying you want. And so, in order for you to use affirmations in a way that actually reprogram you for success, you've got to say statements that you 100% believe to be true. So, I created a system for using starter statements and then repeating those in an affirmation based way. So, I call these affirmantras. And a starter statement example would be like saying the term, I choose to blank. So I choose to have a healthier relationship. You could believe
Yeah.
that, right?
Instead of saying, "I have a great marriage," and you
There you
don't.
go. Yeah, that,
Okay, so yeah, I
yeah.
choose to believe that I'm going to be really good, or I choose to believe I have good relationships.
Well, in that
Or
case,
so
if you
not
don't have a great relationship and you want one, I'd say,
yeah.
I am ready to have a better relationship.
Oh, there we go.
I
Okay.
choose to get better at being in relationships, things like that. And so I teach
They
16
did they take
starter
a little
statements.
they take a little practice, don't they?
They do. But
You
you'll
know?
notice when you say the ones that you believe, you'll notice you feel higher vibe when you finish saying it versus feeling lower vibe and doubt. So anytime you're programming yourself in your mind by saying something over and over that's causing doubt, uncertainty, frustration, stuckness, you know that you don't want to use that term.
Yeah, stop saying it.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
don't
Yeah,
reprogram that your brain that way, and I'll put a
exactly.
plug in, but you have a free 3-part video
Yes.
introduction program on your website that anybody can go to and learn all of this stuff for free, and I went through it. I thought it was phenomenal, and I'm doing my affirmantras and everything as well, so
Awesome.
I can say it's working. I just
Good.
started, so
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's definitely you have those free things available for those who want to learn even more, and you have a workbook that not workbook, but a PDF that explains all of them as well, and I think that's really cool. You know what? I want you to talk about circles. So, for those who are watching this, you have circles all over. Talk about the role that spirals and circles play in your life and why they are so meaningful to you.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I'll say spirals. I talk about the upward spiral growth curve because a lot of people expect success in a linear fashion. So they go, "Oh, I come into something, I'm really excited about it, and I want it to be all upward growth. If there's any down, I start to doubt. If there's too long of downs, I want to give up." And if they realize that growth happens in a spiral trajectory, they would realize that they can't get to the next level of themselves without having a down. right? Without having some challenge. And you can't see how far you're going to expand, and it's always expanding. So I love this symbol of spirals to think about. You start at the beginning, you go up, you feel elated, you're psyched, you're like, yeah, I succeeded. And then you start to ride the wave, and you start to get a little comfortable, and until you decide, oh, I'm going to go to the next level, you start to get challenged, because when you're challenged, that's when you feel like you're on the down. This depends on how you perceive it, right? When you are feeling thrown around by the world, it's perceived as pain. When you are a person who's growth minded, it's perceived as a challenge that's helping you take the next leap into the next higher version of yourself. And so I love this symbol of spirals to show you what it's going to be like on the growth journey, so that you don't give up and you keep knowing I'm expanding. So when I have people come to me, let's say in my coaching program, often they will, they'll have this big growth, and then they start to feel it down, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And I remind them, hey, you got to have the down before you can have the next up. Let's get you through that down in an easy
Mhm.
way that gets you to the next up more quickly and in a state of poise. And so you can just ride it like this, a fun roller coaster ride, instead of a journey where it feels like I'm terrified, this is stressful and overwhelming, and it leads to burnout. And generally, when you're on that journey, it's a downward growth spiral, right? You're going
Yeah.
down instead of up.
Yeah, when you're feeling that, instead of going upwards, you have those little downwards in order to go up again. For those who are in the burnout track,
Yeah.
what's some advice or suggestions you would have for the person who's going in the downward spiral, and or when you're going around and you hit that challenge and you're like, okay, I don't want to stay here. I know I need to go back up again to get to my next iteration. What are some tips, techniques, and tricks you would have in those
So many good ones.
periods?
First, I'd say
Yeah.
it's recognition that you're there, deciding to do something different. Really simple strategy. This is a fun one. I have people create an emergency shift list. So they write down things that will help them shift their energy. And when you notice yourself feeling stuck, do one of those things. These are
What would
simple
be an
things.
example? Something to unstuck.
Playing your favorite song and dancing around your office, listening to 5 minutes of a podcast, going on a walk around the block. Sometimes in my
Mm.
office, like let's say I'm close in meetings, I don't have a lot of time in between, I'll do 10 push-ups. Just shift your physical energy. Jumping jacks, meditation, EFT tapping, affirm mantras, calling someone who makes you happy, petting your cat. I mean, like whatever it is for you, that's what you want to do. And so create an emergency shift list, and you want to have at least 10 things on there that you know are quick things that cause you to shift your energy. And you just do it for a couple minutes and then go on with
Mm.
your day. And then when you notice yourself feeling off, go to it, back to it again, go on with your day. And what happens is that over time, you'll notice you'll just tend on the higher vibrational frequency. And so, for me, like now I feel like those downs, it's such a different experience. The downs are chosen challenges. For example, this year in my business, I took a huge revenue dip for several months by choice, because I decided to revamp and create systems and programs that were scalable. And so it was a chosen downward trajectory, which doesn't feel out of control and volatile. Instead, it's like I choose this moment of the downward to get to the next level of my business.
Yeah, do you find that there's less anxiety when you choose to do something even though it's a downward, or, you take less revenue, for example? That could be seen as a negative and somebody would be like, "Wow, why would you take less money? We always wanna make more, 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 more." But when you make that choice, it's not so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not so scary.
Yeah, I would say control. It's like control, right? Like, do you feel out of control of your reality or in control of your reality? And so anytime
Mm,
you're in a choice state, you're gonna be more in control than when you feel like you're in a victim state where you're out of control. It's like the difference between powerlessness and power. It's why I love the term power, because when you feel powerless to controlling your reality, it is a horrible feeling. It's
mhm.
struggle, it's stress. You said it's anxiety producing, worry filled. I mean, it sucks.
Even in the conversation as we're talking, I have to tell you, now that we're talking about vibrational frequency and noticing what's going on while you're having those conversations, do you know when we're talking about the negative things like anxiety or downward, I can actually feel it myself. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? Wait a minute. Let's go shift this conversation and let's go upward and talk about all that happy stuff, because once you now start recognizing it and know that it's something out there, now you're starting to look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
feel it. It's like, okay, let's talk about powerful and turning impossible to possible. So, talk about the word power, what that means to you, and then also the word impossible and how you would turn that around.
Wow, these are good. I'm going to write this down. Otherwise, we'll get sidetracked. So these are great questions. Power. I think of inner power as you being a deliberate creator because you're aligned in your feelings, your decisions, your thoughts, your actions, your mindset. So when you are aligned, you become a deliberate, conscious creator of your reality. That's inner power. So power is having full control because you understand energy dynamics and you know how to get yourself aligned with the quantum field to get what you want and use the law of attraction to your benefit. That's what I think of as inner power. So it's like, hey, whatever you choose to create is 100% possible when you understand how to play the rules of the game, which is abiding by the principles of energetic dynamics, right? So that's how I think of power. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to wake up in the morning and
Oh,
go,
yeah.
hey, I get to design my life and my business and my money and my relationships and everything, my health, my spiritual well-being exactly as I choose. That's power. Impossible. It's interesting. Such an interesting question. Like that doesn't exist in my mind.
Right,
you
right.
know?
But you could turn it into like I know other coaches where, it's not, like his is like doing the impossible. Well, the impossible is just uncommon. So that's my kind of affirmatra anymore when I think of some
Yeah.
challenge that comes my way. I'm like, no, it's not impossible. It's just uncommon and embedded within the word impossible is
It's
I'm
possible. Yeah.
possible,
Yeah, I like
So
that.
when you
Yeah,
turn things
yeah.
around and depending on what lens you view that thing through, you know, we could go into the weeds on what's good and what's bad. Like, are things
Yeah.
really good or bad? Because it's not
Yeah.
it
It's all
things aren't
perception.
good or bad. All how you perceive it. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Talk about what it means to be in alignment.
Yeah.
We've thrown around a couple of times being in alignment with your inner power, and talk a little bit about what that means to those who might not be familiar with that term.
Yep, yep, great questions. First, I want to say, when someone says to me it's impossible, I say let's come up with 10 ways it is possible. So that's a reframe, right? What's possible?
Mhm.
How could it be possible? What if it were possible? So just shifting completely because impossible is a black and white mindset. And anytime you're in black and white, just like you were saying, you're having a skewed perspective about it being good or bad, possible, impossible. And in reality, there are limitless possibilities. You just haven't thought of them yet. So it's a really fun exercise to go like,
Mhm.
what could be possible? I still have on my radar to write a book called What Ifing What's Possible. So instead of going, what if all the bad things happen, which is what we typically do, we go, what ifing what's possible? What if everything was possible? What if this was possible? What, just playing with it. So it's a fun mindset stretch, a mindset switch
Mhm.
strategy. Alignment. I love this term alignment. I think of alignment as, like I said, your inner power state of being. And what that means is that when you say you want something, you can get it. That's ultimate alignment, right? That means that you are showing evidence in the outer world that your inner being is aligned. Okay? So if you are feeling high vibe, you're saying what you want and you're getting it, you're aligned. So the evidence in the outer world is showing you that your inner state of being is aligned. When you are out of alignment, you will know because you will feel stuck. You'll feel frustrated. You'll feel doubt and fear and uncertainty. And you'll say you want something, but you'll procrastinate. You'll say you
Mm.
want something, but you won't know how to get it. You'll say you want something, but you'll keep getting the opposite. That's how you know you're out of alignment. So, what you're seeking is to be in alignment. And the first place it starts is by paying attention to how you feel. So you want to use your feelings as a guidance system to know whether you're in and out of alignment. So a great question to ask yourself when you wake up in the morning is, how do I feel right now? Just that simple question. How do I feel right now? And if you're like, I'm ready to go, I'm inspired, I feel good, you're in alignment. If you wake up in the morning,
Yeah,
you go, I'm overwhelmed, my to-do list is 8 miles long,
yeah.
I'm not sure if I can pull it off, you're out of alignment.
Okay, what's something somebody can do then if they wake up in that, "Oh my goodness, I've got all this list." What's one thing they can do to get themselves back into alignment? Because I feel like misalignment is a bad habit.
Oh,
You can be
absolutely.
stuck in that misalignment habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's one small step somebody who wakes up tomorrow morning and is misaligned, what can they do?
So I'll say 2 things. 1, go back and to your emergency shift list that I told you to
There we go.
create and do that.
Okay.
That'd be the first easiest thing to do, right? Just go like, what would make me feel good right now? So you go, I'm out of alignment. What would make me feel good right now? So use my inner power formula. Recognize you're out of alignment, reframe, do something that brings you higher vibe, repeat to reprogram. It's that simple.
Excellent.
It's
It's
so
that
simple.
simple.
Literally, I've been teaching people 3 breaths, and that's all you need to do. So if they notice I'm out of alignment, I don't feel good, what am I going to do? Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths and see how you feel. It's wild how easy it is.
Mhm.
I've sometimes play with people on podcasts and go, let's do it right now. Like it's so simple to take 3 deep breaths and shift your
Mhm.
energy.
Well, I can attest to that because that's what you do when you also get into a meditative state as well. You breathe in as deeply as you can, and then I breathe out through my mouth, and like you're breathing through a straw, maybe a little bit like a boba tea straw, one of
Yeah.
those. And
Yeah.
and when you do that, and I can do that after 3 breaths, I go, wow.
Yeah.
Because what it does, and I am terrible at remembering, but it actually does produce a physical reaction within the brain. It activates your reticular activating system. Yes. Did
Yeah.
I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what calms you down, and it really does put you in a different frame of mind. So when somebody gets upset and you say, "Hey, like take a deep breath," they really do mean go take a deep breath.
Yeah.
That's going to help.
Yeah, so and actually, like, it soothes your amygdala. So your
Mhm.
amygdala is in a high state of freak out. When you're not feeling good, your amygdala is getting charged. And this is your state that sends you into fight, flight, freeze. Most people live at a very, I would say, low to mid-range level of stress all the time. And I want
Mhm.
people to know that when you're in a state of stress, it's the what you're sending to the universe signal wise is my plate is full, don't send me any opportunities.
Mm.
Right? That's a
I love
powerful
that.
thing to
Being
know.
stressed out when your plate I'm stressed out, telling the universe my plate is full, and so opportunities don't come your way.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
really important to remember. So if you feel
Yeah.
stressed, you let's say this, if you feel stressed and what you keep saying you want is an easier, simpler, more peaceful life, it's an impossibility to get that if you stay in a state of stress. So it's your job to choose to reprogram your energy to a lower state of stress and play with the 3 breath strategy. What I have people do when I work with my clients or my group coaching program, I have them do an alarm system. So on their phone, they do an alarm every 60 minutes that says, do an energy check in. How am I feeling? Am I stressed? Am I high vibe? And then you just play with it. You do your 3 breaths, you move on with your day. You do your after mantras, you move on with your day, and you keep doing it and you keep doing it.
Mhm.
And over time, you notice, oh, my stress is going down, my success is going up. The reason for that is because now you've opened the door to create and attract easier opportunities. Now you get to live by my mantra, which is work less, make more, have fun, right? You're like, cool, I get to work less, make more, and have fun because I'm attracting easier opportunities, doing more of what I enjoy, and then it's flowing and growing in that upward spiral trajectory.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Like and I love the ease of your Afro mantras. I another one that I actually say to myself is money flows freely and easily to me.
Nice.
I
Yes.
love I love that one. I just go, "Hey,
Yeah.
money flows freely and easily to me." And actually the last week it did. So it's kind of cool
Yeah.
that, to have that. You know what? I got one quick question.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing all this? Like from that point on the basement floor to today? What's the time frame?
I'm in my 5th year of business.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of growth and trajectory in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very encouraging to
Thank
that should be encouraging to anybody
I
listening.
agree. I love that. I'm glad you asked that question because I want people to know how much you can create quickly when you are clear and certain and take action. I have so many formulas and it's because I teach actionable strategies to people and make it really easy to understand how to access the law of attraction and get results. And so, I have a 3-step manifestation formula. It's decide with clarity and certainty what you want, take steps in the direction, let the universe bring you the opportunities and show you the way. That
Mhm,
simple. So I was clear when I made that declaration. I was like, I am ready to do whatever it takes to make more money and have better
mhm.
relationships. And you said it earlier. You said, then the teacher appeared, right? I was writing, the
Mhm.
teacher appeared. Same thing. So what happens when you do this, it feels like magic. It's quantum physics, law of attraction. So what happens is you decide, you take a step. Now, because you're taking a step in the direction and you're inspired and you keep taking steps, remember, action is evidence of belief. You will procrastinate if you don't believe something. You will take action if you believe something. So when you've decided with certainty and clarity, you take the step. Now the universe is like, I'll bring you some opportunities because I see what you want. You're telling me clearly what you want. And so opportunities come your way in the form of teachers, books, events, the list goes on and on. So then you go to that event and then you meet another teacher, or you meet a client, and then that happens. So I always tell people, it's take step A to B. You don't need to know
Right.
A to Z. You just go, okay, I'm going to take the next first step that's being presented to me and then trust that the next step will appear. And I keep doing that. And then in 5 years, I've created, I've gone from food stamps to multiple six figures in my business. I'm on my way to 7. I have a top 2% podcast. I've written an international best-selling book. I've been on 150 podcasts. I'm happily married. I own a house on 3/4 of an acre that backs to the mountains. My life is awesome. I teach and coach and speak around the world. Like, I love my life. And I'm not special. Anyone can do this. You just follow the strategies I teach you. It's simple. It's simple. It takes dedication and commitment. That's it. And then just do the steps, do the steps, do the steps. And it's amazing what you can create in a short period of time.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. Just what the mind can do, and then when you put yourself to it and you have a clear vision. So, let's talk about vision a minute. How do you bring that into play into your life, like visions or vision boards, setting visions for yourself? And what would your suggestion be to create one of those?
Yeah, so fun. So you talked about it earlier. If people go to innerpower101.com, innerpower101.com, I teach scripting. So I love scripting as a strategy to envision. I talk about it as, and I had someone say this to me too, it's like activating your vision based magnetism. I love to help you activate your vision based magnetism. And the reason this works so powerfully is because your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. This is why fear has such a negative effect, because when you're in that fear state, like I said, it creates stress, and you send the signal, don't send me any opportunities, because it would be like the universe thinking there's a lion chasing you. You have a low level state of stress. That's not a time to create. That's not a time to bring on new activities. It's a time to lock down and take care of the stress state. And so, when you activate your vision based manifestation and magnetism, it has the opposite effect, because you're getting into a higher vibrational state by imagining fun things that can happen for you. And then you attach your emotion to it. And the universe doesn't know the difference, because the vibrational frequency you send out is like high vibe, inspiration, fun, flow, and then you attract it to you. And so I've used scripting to manifest a lot of things in my life: my husband, my house, bigger business. I mean, really cool stuff. And it works really powerfully. So in my Inner Power 101, that's a free course. You can learn scripting. And then in my daily program, we do consistent strategies like a desire list. And I teach people how to do that. People use vision boards. I don't use vision boards always, because I have a really powerful imagination. So I can do it through writing and then
Mhm.
just see in my mind. I would say if you're a person who's more visual and you need that, vision boards can be an awesome strategy too. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that about the vision boards being visual, because I actually have my vision board. I designed it on Canva. I have the pictures and then put it as my wallpaper on my computer. So every day when I open up my computer multiple times a day, I'm always looking at my vision board at the things that I want and what I want to create.
I
So
love
I'm
that.
glad that your program also hits all the different modalities. You hit the visual, audio by repeating, and then getting the movement of the hand to get the hand and the brain in there too. So, what's one thing that you thought would be hard about building your business and wasn't? And what was one thing that you thought would be easy and turned out being hard?
It's interesting. What's one thing I thought would be easy or hard? You know,
Both.
yeah, it's fascinating to me, because I was so driven from the beginning. Like, when I started to learn how to change myself, it inspired me. Like, I had never felt so inspired all my life to realize, like, there are ways to help people, and it's helping me and I can help people. And so I didn't really start from that place. Like, yes, I had imposter syndrome and perfectionism when I was building my website and all of those things. But I didn't perceive it as like, oh my God, I don't know how, I can't do this. I always was like, it is 100% possible to get to six figures. And I believed that fully. And I did it in that first year. That was my goal. It's been hard for me to get to seven figures until now. And I see the path now and I can see why I've been stuck. And that has taken a while. I thought when I started that I was going to get to seven figures within 3 years because I had heard other people doing it. And I was like, I could do that too. And I haven't yet. And I see it as my 2024 reality. And now that I have systems in place for it, that's why I see it being able to happen. And I can now attract from a different level because I have a system for it. And what I mean by that is I have a scalable system that can manage and handle
Mhm.
that influx of people. Whereas before I had the dream and I was open to possibilities, but I really hadn't built out a system to be able to do it. And then I started to get frustrated and I use my tools on myself and I'd still be stuck. And so scaling to seven figures has been something that has eluded me until now, I would say.
But I have to wonder though, like everything happens for a reason in a season. So you didn't scale to the seven figures because maybe it's just that wasn't your time yet. And there are things that you had to do along the way in order to get from six to seven. I've had somebody challenge me when I would say something on the line of, oh, that should have happened
Yeah.
already, or I wish I would have done that. And they're like, no, everything is happening for you in its own perfect timing. What if you just let it happen and not
Yeah.
force it?
I
And
believe
it
that 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
like if you're gonna go climb a mountain, you can't go right to the top. You gotta start at the bottom. You have to go through the middle. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's gotta go through the middle to get to the top of your mountain. So it's the same thing that all things happen in perfect timing for perfect reasons. And I have to remind myself of that when things don't go my way. I'm like, wait a minute, or they don't go fast enough. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, wait a
Yeah.
minute. I'm right here because I have to learn something else before I can go these other steps in the direction that I want to be in. And, if you scaled right to seven figures, maybe you wouldn't have put the systems in place and maybe you wouldn't have been able to handle the seven figures that you scale to. I don't know. So it's very interesting when you just kind of
Yeah.
like let the things happen the way they're going to happen. You know what? One thing that was in your program that I wanted you to touch on because I don't think it's talked about enough, and there's a lot of power in this, and that's the EFT tapping. And I thought at first it was kind of hokey, but
Yeah.
then when you actually apply it, it does work. So for those listening, talk a little bit about EFT tapping because I actually can attest and say, yes, it does work when
Yeah.
I remember to use it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love tapping. I use it with my group all the time. And I think I felt the same way when I started. It was skepticism, or I wouldn't say completely skepticism, but it was like, huh, I actually learned it I would say 3 years ago from someone who came on my podcast when I did interviews on my podcast, and she taught it, and I thought, "Cool," but I never implemented it. I just learned it, and I was like, "That sounds like a cool strategy," and then I kind of forgot about it, and then, in the last, let's say, year, it's been this year. Yeah, in the last year, I've gotten really into it because it has dramatically reprogrammed my money blocks specifically. And
Mm,
so it's really an amazing system. So for people don't know, it's called the emotional freedom technique. And what it's doing is allowing your blocked emotions to dissipate by tapping on meridian points and releasing unconscious blocks. And so it's a very simple strategy. And, the way I teach it is that you don't need to know the exact order of things. I always like people to learn how to do the way that it's practiced. But, on a podcast, I often tell people just tap on your chest or
yeah,
feel fear. And when you feel the fear, where do you feel it in your body? Tap there. Right? That could be a way to do it. So, really, what you're doing is you're bringing awareness instead of avoiding the thing that you're freaked out about. And what that does is allows it to move through you and and instead of resisting it, which makes it grow in size, you're letting it go, you're acknowledging it. It'd be like if there's a fire in your office, you wouldn't ignore it, it would grow, right? You acknowledge it and you put it out. With same thing with fear and things that make you feel negative emotions, we tend to want to avoid them and pretend they don't exist, but then it just causes them to grow. And that is in the law of attraction, you're creating more resistance. So EFT works really well to play with the law of attraction by getting your energetic state of being aligned. And so, let's just say someone feels fear in their chest. And so I like to teach affirmantras with tapping. So I'll just have
Mhm.
people play with tapping on their system. And the traditional statement is to say, even though I've been feeling blank, I still deeply and profoundly love myself. So you could say,
Mhm.
even though I've been feeling fear about money, I still deeply and profoundly love myself. Even though I've been
Mm.
feeling bad about my body, I still deeply and profoundly love myself, that kind of thing. And then you notice this huge shift in your energy when you do it. And so it's a very powerful strategy. Again, in my Inner Power 101, I have an EFT tapping lesson. So if people are interested in it.
That free PDF, it shows the different meridian points, and then you actually demonstrate it as well in your videos. But I did
Yeah.
want you to talk about it briefly here on the podcast so at least people were aware that this is also something else, another technique that you teach that they can use to help them overcome fear, help them overcome those blocks that they have, and be able to, move and grow and get to that higher vibrational state. As we start to wrap up, but I always ask this question. I'm learning I have to put a disclaimer with it because sometimes we talk for like 10 more minutes once I ask it, and that's fine by me, but it's what's one question or topic you wish I would have asked about, and how would you have answered that question or expanded on the topic?
Oh, wow. That's tricky because you asked a lot of good questions already. I
Thank
feel like
you.
we covered so much ground.
That's
Um,
fine.
yeah, yeah. I love. I've been on 150 plus other people's podcasts, and I always trust that the conversation goes exactly where it needs to go based on what you're interested in and what your audience will be interested in. So I think you asked the perfect questions that your audience will resonate with.
Thank you. I think we did too. I think we covered a lot of ground. Share a book that has had a significant impact on you, please.
I have my own book, which is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Plug your
Yeah,
book, that's fine.
yeah, yeah, sure. And I can say it has, like, I mean, I read avidly all the time. My book is I Am a Money Magnet, the top 30 money making affirmations to manifest more. The reason this book will have a crazy impact on you and has on me is because it has 100+ journaling questions in it to help you reprogram your money mindset. So no matter what stage of the game you're in, you will find clues to what's been unconsciously keeping you blocked. And it really incorporates many of the books that I've read that have helped me create a system to help other people succeed. And
Mhm.
this one's just specifically focused on money. So if they want free chapters, just go to iamamoneymagnetbook.com. So books to me are gold mines. They're really inexpensive. And for what you get, I mean, there are books that I've read that I feel like I would pay $1 million for because they have helped me break through to levels that I could never have broken through to had I not read that one perfect sentence that I needed to hear at the perfect moment. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, read more, listen to books more, listen to more podcasts. Like what you're doing in the world is amazing for people because you're helping them reprogram their mindset. So I think that's such an important
Uh,
thing to do.
Thank you. Yeah. So as we close, what's one small step that someone can do today that's going to help them change their tomorrow?
Ask yourself every morning, how am I feeling? If you don't like the way you're feeling, do something to shift your energy. Could be something very small. And then do that every single morning for the next 30 days. And then reach out to me and let me know what happens.
Perfect. Sounds good. Dr. Amanda, thank you for being on the podcast. How can people reach out to you?
All things Inner Power Daily. So I have a podcast called Inner Power Entrepreneur. They can find it on my website, innerpowerdaily.com. I hang out a lot on Instagram and starting to hang out more on LinkedIn. So Instagram and LinkedIn at Inner Power Daily. Tons of free resources, paid resources, ways to work with me, all kinds of awesome stuff. So just go to innerpowerdaily.com.
Fantastic. And I'll have all that stuff in the show notes too. You shared a lot of those links with me. Again, thank you for being here, Dr. Amanda. Lots of nuggets of information, and I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Sue.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. I value your time with me and I seek to make every moment count. In order to make lasting change in your life, listening is usually not enough. So I want to ask you, what practical steps are you going to put into action today as a result of listening to this podcast? Remember, any step, any action, no matter how small, starts your journey to a big win. And if you're not sure where to get started, check out my website, personalcoachfinder.com, and find someone who can help. Remember, life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by choice. Take small steps today and make your life awesome, friends.